viewers. Welcome to Silent Conversations with Miss Nkatha. I am your host, Nkatha Mwenda, a recovered alcoholic, a nutritionist by profession, founder, Sober Living Youth Summit, chairperson, Graceful Youth Recovery Center. This is a show that highlights whispered conversations and transforms them into credible discussions. And today, I'm so delighted to have on the show Lawrence Karanga. And Lawrence is a recovery coach. He's also in the community and supporting many initiatives. And I know you being here today, you'll be able to advise us, guide us, and especially on community-based rehabilitation. Welcome to the show.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Thanks
Tell
a
us a little about yourself. Who is Lawrence?
Wow, thanks a lot for having me. Lawrence Karanga is a recovering addict
Okay.
of very many years, more than 20 years down
Really?
the line. Yes. I think that of late I used to have a lot of regrets seeing the kind of lifestyle that I'm living. But today I've got no regrets whatsoever because I say my story is my testimony.
Wow.
And I can be able to look back and say, that was Lawrence, but this is still the same Lawrence, only now that he's practicing sobriety.
Wow. I like the way you've mentioned regret because many people who are in addiction, even now, maybe are still in denial. They may not accept that substance of use or that behavior is affecting them, but behind closed doors, they have conversations with themselves. So for you to be free from that addiction, what was it? Alcohol?
Yes, alcohol, cigarettes,
For
those
you,
are the ones.
for you to be free now and it being what you're saying is it's your purpose now. You've gone back to the community to guide people not to go that way, and those who are already there to show them that there's a way out. Am I right?
Yes.
Wow. So how did you begin? How did you start using drugs? Was it in school or what happened? Just a little, then we'll delve right into what you're doing in the community. How did you start using?
I was in high school.
Okay.
Back in high school during these kesha za kurukisha mwaka, and your parent could give you permission to go in either Christmas Eve or the end year.
Na ilikuwa kesha. Ilikuwa Christian crossover.
Yes.
And that was the only reason why they were allowing you to go, because of the Christian angle.
Yes.
Because
then you couldn't be out at night.
Yes.
But back in our parents' minds, they were like, our sons and daughters are very safe wherever they are. But we had other motives, that our passion, our interest was not going to church.
Oh, really?
We were going to meet with other friends, high school, those guys that we never went to the same high school. So maybe we could be able to meet at night and compare notes. And comparing notes, we mean by using substances.
Who was supplying?
There are some of us who maybe still in high school, they were big and kind of bearded.
Yes.
So we could send them, raise some cash, send them to the Winter Spirits. They were still there, very minimal, or few of them.
Yeah.
Or even in clubs, they could go and be able to ferry the substances out. For cigarettes, they could say that I've been sent by my dad or my,
Yeah, because that happens a lot.
That happens a lot.
Wow. And for you, you say you are influenced by the environment, by your peers. That's how you started using, or what can you?
I would say it was more of a transition, and a lot of you are confused. You really doesn't know where you stand. You're just out of primary school, and now you're in high school. So as much as you have gone through the rite of passages as a small boy, you are still not sure, where do you belong? Do I belong? Am I still a small boy? Should I behave the way I used to behave? Or right now I'm a man, so what do men do? So looking at people, like what I've never told you, that I was really used to addicted to gambling at the age of 3.
At the age of?
Yes, 3. I was very good in poker at the age of 3. Growing up, even in high school, I never used to sleep. I used to play to gamble the whole night.
So the card things at
Yes.
3 years, what would you gamble? What would you exchange it for?
Where I grew up, most of my big daddies and uncles and everyone else were gamblers.
Oh
So
my.
when they wake up in the morning until late at night, during darkness, all they did was just to play cards and just play with money.
Karata.
Karata, exactly.
Where?
So we developed that as we grew up. So even now, when we came of age, now the karata was out of question because the government had really tried to wakashika wengi, so it was not happening. But in high school, the karata addiction was still there. So whereby I used to have a lot of money because I grew up with it, so I knew how to steal from the karata.
Yeah,
So I was the best among
okay.
my peers. So
Wow.
going back home, at least I had enough cash to fuel my addiction or to fuel my substance use
Oh,
comfortably without kutegemea wazazi.
wow. When we were talking earlier, we were speaking of the adverse effects of alcoholism or drug use, and especially to the family,
Yeah.
because we've spoken of broken relationships, we've talked about strained relationships. Did you experience that in those many years of using? Or was your family accommodative? Was your family supportive?
It will depend with which family, but
Yes.
going back to my background, my dad passed on when I was only 1 year old. So I didn't see uh, the addiction or the substance dependency in my family, my direct family, because
Mm.
my mom, being a single mother, as much as I knew before she got born again, she was still kind of touching a bottle here and there, but kujificha sana because she couldn't want us to see whether she was using or not. So in my father's side of my family, when I was a child, I didn't see addiction or substance use as much. But now when I came of age, out of high school, out of college and all, and I started using until now I got married, or rather I married, it has really affected my family as a whole. Because we say addiction is a chronic disease whereby one person uses, but the rest around you gets affected.
Wow. Yes, that is true. So what how did they suffer, or how were they affected by your drug use? Can you give us some examples? Did you divert all funds to your drinking and not pay, say, the rent or school fees? Did you ever have, say, affairs? You said you're married.
Mhm.
Did you ever, there's this common phrase, not Kenyan men, many men,
Mhm.
they say you have to pass somewhere before you get home because you don't want to hear stories on
Yeah.
end. And that's leads to you spending more time away from the family and the children. Then that ends up also opening room for having other relationships with other people. This could be sexual and all. How did it affect you?
Definitely, it has really affected me a lot and also
Mm.
my family because I could even go for 3, 4 days without never going home. Could open my car boot and all I could see is the new T-shirts that I've bought in clubs and exchanging. At some point, the boot is full because you're not even very sure which one am I going to take home for laundry and which am I not going to, because you have to make sure whether they have got the lipsticks on. Because when you are really lit, you don't know who you are with, you can't even remember, and you are having couple and couple and couple of friends. So I would say yes.
Unarusha evidence kwa
Unarusha
boot.
yes. So
Okay.
lazima ufiche, plus now you don't want to go home.
Yeah.
So nguo unanunua zinaletwa kwa klabu, you just change karolon kidogo kakolon and you're good to go. So you don't even notice that 4 days you have never stepped your foot into your house. And one of the most painful thing is when my kids used to come for holidays, and you could see that I've not even sat down with them for a whole month, because maybe I go for 3 days drinking, drinking, drinking. So the only time I'm home, I'm nursing my hangovers. So you're
Mm.
even fearing for the kids to come and say hi, daddy, because the only thing you can be able to give them is the stench of alcohol and cigarettes, and So at some point, or all the time rather, I really try to keep them away because I don't want them to see this kind this side of their father.
So you are keeping away, number one, to protect them,
Yes.
and number two, also to escape. And number three, because alcohol obviously had become a priority. So any plan can easily be extended. You don't mind going home. You don't mind about your wife. You don't mind about the children. You were just after that high or just being comfortable.
Yes. They became a bother, sorry to say, but I love you guys. Because when you're in that
Yeah.
situation, you live for alcohol and buy the alcohol.
Yes.
Anything else that comes between you and your alcohol is an enemy. And that's why today I say, as much as you're my mom, as much as you're my wife or my son or my brother, anybody who can be able to come between me and my sobriety, I count them an enemy.
So now it's different.
Now it's,
Then you would fight for that substance,
yes.
but now you're fighting for sobriety.
My
Yeah, just
sobriety.
continue. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you never used to see them anywhere close. Like for example, if you give me 100K then today, all I could see is how many alcohol, how many days am I going to be out there drinking. I never saw it as a value of money like this 100K can be able to get me a plot of land anywhere in the interior,
True.
or like anything like school fees, house rent, or anything like that. So for me, it was alcohol, and nothing else but alcohol.
Wow. And did it interfere with your work? Because at the home front, obviously, you're not showing up for, like you're saying, they were an obstacle because of the disease, because of the addiction. What about work? Were you showing up, or did it also end up interfering with your source of income?
Okay, it has really greatly affected my employ. Okay, I've never been employed. I've always been self-employed.
Okay.
But I've really rubbed shoulders the wrong way with my clients because I could tell you what did I didn't say when I was starting. I'm an animal behaviorist by profession, whereby training and rearing of dogs has been my way of
You,
life.
you speak to animals?
Yes, I do.
You
speak to-
understand their language?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay.
And one of the dog trainers in the country, so to say. But the people that have wronged, because when I come to your house today, you pay me a deposit so that I can be able to continue coming to your house for a month, which never happened. Because once you pay me today, that 50%, maybe just going to come for 2 days. But this money, maybe you have given me 200K. It's too little for me to be able to continue coming to your place. Because if I hit the club today for 4 or 5 days, the money is gone. So I won't be able to continue the classes because I don't have fuel to come to your house. I always used to carry all my riches in my wallet and in my phone. So anything to tell me about the bank account, I never had money in the account. All I lived for all those 20 years. And though it's in the account, it's always simply because sijaingia kwa club. Otherwise, once I hit the club, nitaivuta and it's just going to sit on the table. So it has affected my work because I burned a lot of bridges. I could import dogs on behalf, but I'm importing upepo. So I've wronged very many clients such that I never had good referrals. So as much as many people believed in me, it has really affected my career over the years. So what I used to dwell on was these one-on-one clients. But in terms of referrals, trust you me, because of my addiction, nobody wanted to come back or refer
Yeah,
anybody
because
to come back
because you wouldn't deliver.
to me. Yes, I wouldn't deliver. I wouldn't deliver.
When you became sober, did you make amends, or did you ever make amends with those people, or that's one that you just dealt with personally and moved on?
I'm still in the process because if I happen to make amends to all the people or reach out to the people that I've wronged, I'll be in prison today, to be honest, because I'm still going to open the fresh wounds. But deep down in me, I know all these people that I conned or I obtained money illegally, I'll have to at some point repay them. But to be honest, we are talking about millions and millions of shillings.
I was about to ask you, kwani hii kitabu, the list is how many people? There are many people, eh?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are, because you can count like 20 years down the line. Yes, I've delivered fully to some, But
Did anyone press charges? Did anyone look for you?
countless times, countless times. But I developed a way of mchezo wa paka na panya with the police. So many a times that I couldn't even walk with my phone. I would go get a room, put my phone there, and go sleep because I don't want like to be tracked. And mind you, those people who would afford paying 300,000 plus for a dog or even for training, they are not just anybody. So this is
Yes.
somebody who can be able like to look for you and trace for you wherever you are.
Yeah.
So I always keep on telling people that for me being here today and not in prison is by the grace of God,
Wow.
because I've wronged many, I have stolen or rather obtained money illegally from and not delivering from many. So it is by the grace of God.
If any one of those who perhaps you never delivered and they're watching,
Yes.
how life has a way of, of working in its
Yes.
amazing ways,
Yes.
and they're watching you today, what would you want to tell them? Just look at one of those cameras.
I would say thank you, Nkatha, for this opportunity. It has been a rough ride for me, and I never did this simply because I wanted to, but simply because of my addiction. I had to sustain the addiction nature of my lifestyle. Until now, after starting practicing sobriety, I came to understand that I was sick. I think I never knew that addiction was a sickness. But today, I'm aware that I was sick, and I'm willing to make amends to all the people that have not been able to deliver over the years. I still have got your contacts, and I know one of these fine days I'll still come to you and finish whatever we had agreed upon. And I'm sorry to have not delivered after you trusted me with your money.
Wow. How does that feel?
Relieving.
It looks,
Relieving.
someone may be watching and saying, "Now, what is that?" I'm telling you, there's so much relief that comes from admitting that you are wrong,
Yes.
taking full responsibility of actions,
True.
and also with a message that at times out there, when you look at someone who's an addict with behavior that is questionable, don't be quick to demonize. Be compassionate, reach out to them. They have a sickness, they have a challenge, and they need the help. And just like he got into recovery and now he's sober for how long?
Going to 1 year.
Almost 1 year. It's also possible for those who we know and we perhaps at times say, "This one I don't think can ever change." Don't give up on them. There is always a starting point where you stop the habits or you stop using, but it will need a lot of your support. And those people who have a substance use disorder or an addiction, it's important to admit that you have a challenge. Just go into the internet, get resources. You can go into the Nacada website to look for the signs and symptoms. You can go look for a form called DSM-5 to just check out, because one of the most common signs that you have a substance use disorder is that you continue to do this thing or to use substances, and despite the harm that it brings to you, you still continue using. That's one of the signs. Number two, if you take a lot of your time using the substance and recovering from it, that's also a sign that you have a problem. And you can be able to get the necessary help. Do not suffer on your own. Don't think that umelaniwa or your caste or all those things that many of us or most communities or societies make it look like. Just accept and seek help. Here on this show, we'll give you contacts so that you can also reach out to us and we can be able to link you to how you can get into recovery. Yeah, thank you so much for being vulnerable. I mean, that's, oh my goodness. I hope it reaches to someone who you dealt with in the past. And I hope they can be compassionate enough despite how it made them feel then. When you've been conned, when you've been duped, it feels not right. I mean, it's against the law as well. So we hope that they can extend the grace and exchange and reciprocate the same. So tell me about prison. Let's talk about crime. Let's talk about courtrooms, because we've been talking and you've mentioned that alcohol, drug use leads many people to crime. And you're also involved in helping people get their bond cleared, if I'm not wrong. What kind of crimes are you seeing these courtrooms that are related to drugs and alcohol?
Okay. I would like to urge our viewers that one of these fine days when you're just free, just walk into a courtroom and just sit and listen to like maybe 20 or 50 cases in that day. And I can tell you for free, 90% of the crimes that you are, or offenses rather, that you are going to find in those courtrooms, 90% are either directly or indirectly connected to alcohol or drug abuse.
Give us examples of what you've seen.
Uh, Assault, for example,
Yes.
people do insult, for example, and when you happen like to ask how it happened, most of these culprits always say, "Sorry, I was high," on A, B,
Mm.
C, D. If it's assaults, nobody, or in most circumstances, that does assault when they are still sober. Some of them are influenced by drugs. Could be stealing. Most of the stealing or breakages, they are doing it simply because they need to go and satisfy the addiction need or urges.
Wow. Hmm. I've been in a court before. Hmm. And I agree with you. I must have been in court for a certain reason. Maybe some time back, I think my tail light was not working. But what really saddened me in the courtroom was, like you said, number one, most of the offenses were because of being under the influence of alcohol. I noticed also many of them were working for the public service vehicles. So it was either a driver driving or caught driving under the influence of alcohol, or uh, conductors also unruly, insulting, and some didn't have uniform. Um, there was also a lot of drink driving.
What?
Drink driving.
Okay.
Yeah, drink driving. And so you're already arrested, you're in this courtroom. It is because you were under the influence.
Yeah.
It was because of impaired judgment. I can only imagine the risk that many put others because of their drinking. Yeah. And I remember the fines being so hefty. So majority of those people, and especially the public service vehicle providers, were not able to raise the fines because they are way above. And so you have people in remand in for traffic offenses, which is okay, because it's penalizing them.
Yeah.
But you'll find that will not be the first time and the last time. They'll go there for 6 months, go through the hardship, but have you dealt with the addiction?
Nope.
No. So when you mentioned you go to prisons, you go to courts, and you also mentioned, and I've seen, you also work in the community. Can you link the two? What are you doing in the community? Because there's a lot of drug use in the community. There's a lot of illicit brews, both legal and illegal, that the community people are using. There's this campaign against the drugs being led, obviously, by the president, and with the executive orders lying in the with the deputy president, His Excellency Rigathi. And we've seen what is happening. The national government administrative officers have been taxed, the chiefs and all of them, to ensure that these brews are not being sold, that people should be penalized. But we are seeing what is happening on the ground. People are still drinking. Those officers are being attacked by the cartels and the drug pushers. What is happening in your community, and what advice would you give us? you know?
For that, first of all, if you give me permission, I would really like to thank Her Excellency, Dr. Pastor Dorcas Rigathi, because in my community, she has really helped in reaching out and helping us with free rehabilitation to our boys and men, whereby in my community we have classes in a church called Hallelujah Church in Banana. And also really like to acknowledge Bishop Mwangi for a very good job that he has been doing. And actually, he's the one who mentored and helped me through the recovery journey, whereby after that, he invited Nacada, came to the church and identified the potential that we had. That they took us through training and we got certified as recovery coaches. So coming back to your question, many are times that you have been basing the addiction menace with treatment, trying to reach out to those who already are in addiction. But through our program, we are trying right now even to reach 2 schools because, as you have heard, through the Nacada, what do you call it? Findings, rather.
The study,
The
yes, the
study,
national study,
yes.
yes, of status report.
Kids are starting using drugs at the age of 6.
Yes.
And by the time they are 8 years, they have at least used 3 kind of different types of drugs.
True.
So what you are doing, we are reaching out to these kids in schools, in churches, but more so to their parents.
Yes.
Because if you hear like my story, other person's story, we started using substances
Because of your environment and
because
because
my
of your
environment.
home.
Exactly.
Mm.
So we have been training parents and talking to parents on how to and how not to be enablers or helping making the kids starting to start using drugs at a very early age. And also now to those who are already in active use, we have been reaching out. Maybe you've got a court case. We act on how you're going to help with the pro bono. Maybe you are medically unfit because of the substance use.
The adverse effects of alcohol,
Exactly.
okay?
So we know where to refer you to. So we do a lot of referrals. So once you come to our office, I also want to acknowledge that we have got an office in Karori, courtesy of the DCC. Karori, we thank God because many people are coming into that office.
Wonderful.
Free of charge. Our services are totally entirely free.
Yes.
And we have seen the change in the community because parents are now coming telling us, oh, sorry, thanks God for this. I've got my son who is A, B, C, D, E, F. And first of all, we always tell them, before you bring your son, kindly sit down because we need to talk to you first so that we can be able to see. Because when they come, they say, huwa mulevi, huwa mtu wa bangi. So even the words that they are using to their own sons, they are already stigmatizing to their loved ones. So we train and we talk to parents before now we reach a hand to talk to their loved ones. So it's a wholesome from kids, parents, and those in active use. And those who are in active use, we evaluate. We see whether you are going to come to our outpatient rehabilitation program, like a drop-ins where you come by, we talk and da 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 da. Or if your case is severe, no, that's why we liaise with the office of the second lady and we forward their files for in-house rehabilitation.
Wow.
And also, before I forget, we're also reaching out to the civil service, to teachers, police who are within our community, those who we feel or they feel themselves that they might be having an issue or two with substance use and dependency.
Wow. Yeah. I also would want to echo what you're saying. It is commendable what the Office of the Spouse of the Deputy President,
yes,
led by Her Excellency Dr. Pastor Dorcas Rigathi, is spearheading. And they've been very many beneficiaries
yes,
of that program, and you are one of the direct beneficiaries in that community.
yes.
And I like the fact that it is a process. You're not just picking men and taking them to rehab.
No.
You are addressing the home, you are addressing the environment, you are addressing the caregivers and the guardians and everyone.
Yes.
Because by doing so, even when the young men come out of rehabilitation or from the program, reintegration becomes easier.
True.
And even easier because then everyone has been sensitized to what they were going through, and they will be encouragers. And that environment will be different as compared to how it has always been when
Yes.
they were struggling with that addiction. Wow, that's impressive. And we have to acknowledge the DCC of the region
Yes.
being able to avail a desk, an
Oh,
office.
yes.
I know you are dealing with so many people coming from far and wide
Yes.
because many people are affected by substance and drug use in the community. Wow, wow, wow. What is your parting shot? What is your parting shot? What would you want to advise a father who has to take one or two for the road before he gets home? What would you advise a mother who does the same? Because what I hear, even from the situation of your family, which I believe you made amends,
Yeah.
you can avoid a lot of that. Very many homes suffer. How would you help somebody today? What would you advise them? A man who keeps away from the family because they don't want the noise, he perceives them as a bother. Please speak to them today, because we would want them to change. We would want them to be available for their homes, because those actions of being away is enabling, is just creating an enabling environment in his home for his children, for his family to suffer, to be exposed to trauma, to be exposed to all this emotional distress. And when you do that, it becomes a cycle. We want to break the cycle. What can you tell a parent who is watching today based on your experience?
Okay, I would really like to tell parents that the children are watching. You might think, because in my case, I've been lying to my kids that nilikuwa job usiku. But how many years and how many days and how many months are you always going to be working at night for days without ever coming home? So the kids are watching. And when you're deep into addiction, you don't even know how the time flies. So you still see your kids as the ones that you are lying when they are still young. But now the addiction takes you over and you realize, hey, yeah, my child is in high school, my child is in university. So they have been watching you what you're doing. So kindly, there's what we call the X factor. And whatever that you have, the X factor is a situation whereby the urge for that bottle, for example, yeah. And maybe by continue to show your kids your true you when you don't ever come home, they are learning and they have a higher chance of following your footsteps. One thing I would really like to tell our wives and our husbands, and more so our wives, many a times I got myself in clubs and I never wanted to go home because as an addict, I was always blaming other people. As much as I was the problem, but I couldn't see myself as a problem as long as I've got my bottle. So to me, anybody else coming between me and my bottle was my enemy, and my enemy in this case was my wife. Right now I can amaze you that namwangalianga hivi nashindwa, "Ai, kwani hatukosanangi siku hizi?" Because we used to be ever quarreling and fighting and fighting and
Yeah.
fighting. But right now, I see nothing that was making me to go to that bottle. So if you are a wife out there and your husband is using and maybe he's deep into addiction, kindly come to us because you might be doing the quarreling to your husband, not knowing you are adding the guilt in them. Because personally, I used to cry a lot inside, looking at my wife and my kids, seeing what I'm doing to them. Ilhali is not something I really want to do. So I'm hurting them, but I couldn't help hurting them because I'm so much into addiction and they couldn't be able like to see how I'm suffering. And all I got from my family and friends was critics. They're telling me you don't think you do blah 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 blah. How comes you're doing this to your family? But if as a woman your husband has been using, kindly reach out to somebody who can be able to walk through the recovery journey, because as much as you are not using as a wife or as a child, you are still affected if your husband is using. And by knowing how to relate with a family member who is in active use takes a toll, a real turnaround, so that you can be able to know how to relate with them. Don't judge them, don't beat them because they're already beating themselves. They are not doing this because they want, but they have gotten to a point whereby there is no retreat and there is no surrender. So what they do, they have just surrendered to the bottle. So kindly reach out to somebody who can be able to take you through to know how you can relate with those loved ones that are in active use. And by so doing, it will really bring a lot of change, because utaacha kumkemea kila wakati au haufikirii ABCDEF, and you'll know how to tackle this person. Like there's an example I always use. As I said, addiction, wewe ni mgonjwa. And if your loved ones is in hospital, in a hospital ward, what you do, you take to mayai, to matunda,
Glucose.
glucose, like, because you want these people to recover. The same thing should be applied to your loved ones if they're in active use. But also you have to know to draw the line between being an enabler and the caring, loving wife to help your husband to come out of it. So my simple advice will be, if you hear these gatherings that people are being taught about drugs and how to relate with our loved ones who are in active use, kindly participate. Give them a listening ear. There's a lot that we can be able to get from these forums.
Wow. Yes. Thank you so much, Lawrence. I know we'll have more and more of these discussions, but what I've picked up from today is when we become responsible citizenry, we can be able to improve the neighborhoods and the places that we are living. And viewers, when we look at the community-based initiatives that they are doing in Kiambu County, you called your place?
Banana Karori.
Karori.
Karori, yes.
You can see the church is involved. Yes. The experts are involved. The people in recovery are involved. So that with this initiative that is combining different people from different sectors, you find together as a community, you can heal. Together as a community, you take responsibility. And even you will fight off these drug dealers and all these people who have put up bars in places that they should not be. And you find by advocating for that, that's how communities are being transformed, from the family to the ward, to the county, to the country, to the world. And you are a major player in it, and we appreciate you. Sure. Viewers, you've heard it from Lawrence. He's in recovery. He has made amends at home. And the way he's speaking, he's saying his wife is happy, unlike before. And I can imagine the relationship between him and his children and his family has improved. And it can also happen for you. It's been your host, Nkatha Mwenda of Silent Conversations. Until next time, stay blessed.